What's going on, y'all? Five Sports Talk back at it with another video, talking some more NFL, talking more NFL free agency, talking Tony Romo, because I hadn't really had a chance to touch up on Tony Romo and basically, where he's going to end up, because it was expected that he was going to be released by the Dallas Cowboys, but then Jerry Jones pulled another Jerry Jones and decided to change his mind, and now they want to see if they can maybe get something out of Tony Romo, so they're holding on to him in the hopes of a trade with a certain team, and hopefully they get something back. So really, one way or another, Tony Romo will be playing somewhere else next season, so I'm here to discuss which team that is going to be. So with that being said, let's get started. So essentially there are three teams that I want to talk about, because those three teams are, in particular two of them, are the heavy contenders that have been linked to Tony Romo ever since the word got out that he was going to be released by the Cowboys. And these three teams basically have been in the mix all along. And if you guys have been following the situation closely, you should know what these teams are. I'll start right away with the Denver Broncos. Okay, so the Denver Broncos have been interested in Tony Romo, like I said, since word got out that he was probably going to be released. I don't know if they are going to trade for him, but like I said, I think they prefer to sign him as a free agent. At least that's what was reported. But let's just look at the roster here. You're talking about Tony Romo and why he's being linked to the Broncos. Well, first and foremost, they don't really have a quarterback on the roster that they think is the future, at least right now. I know Trevor Siemian played decently well last year. He had some flashes, but I don't think they think he's the future. And then Paxton Lynch was pretty bad when he got an opportunity to start, so clearly he is not ready yet. So there's sort of an opening at quarterback, and we've seen this before. We've seen this with the Peyton Manning movie, where they come in, and Peyton Manning, after he selected the Denver Broncos after leaving the Colts, they basically surrounded Peyton Manning with an amazing roster, a great defense, and John Elway, who's a hell of an executive, did a great job with this team, and so that's why Peyton Manning decided on the Broncos, and he eventually ended up winning Super Bowl with the Broncos. So that was the entire reason why the Broncos got linked. Okay, so they have two stud wideouts in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. They've got a decent running back in C.J. Anderson. They've got an incredibly great defense. I'm talking about a Super Bowl winning caliber defense. And then you've got, a new offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy. They have a new head coach. So Tony Romo wouldn't really have to do much, because he would be surrounded by a lot of good playmakers. Like I mentioned, he would have a lot of good weapons on the outside, and then he's got a great defense behind him. So the Broncos, just on paper, look like a great fit because all of the pieces are there. You put in Tony Romo, and now you probably become a contender. So the Denver Broncos absolutely are a strong suitor for Tony Romo, and should be. The second team that I want to talk about is the Houston Texans, who basically made a huge splash in free agency with a trade, not even a signing, when they shipped out Brock Osweiler out of town, and they told the Cleveland Browns, here, just take him. We'll give you a second-round pick just to take this contract. And that's essentially what the Browns did. They took on Brock Osweiler just because of the second-round pick, and now the only quarterback, I believe, is on the Houston Texans roster is like Tom Savage. I don't even know if they have another quarterback behind him. So the decks are, quote-unquote, all cleared for Tony Romo. And then you've got a similar roster here, actually. You've got great wideouts in DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. You've got a good tight end in C.J. Fedorowicz, so great playmaking tight ends. Ryan Griffin's another good tight end on the roster as well. And then a great defense. I believe it was the #1 scoring defense, if I'm not mistaken, last year. J.J. Watt will be coming back. So an incredible defense, incredibly good playmakers on the outside, a good running back in Lamar Miller. So all the pieces are there for Tony Romo as well. But here's the thing with the Texans. They play in a considerably easier division when they have to face teams like Indy, Tennessee, and Jacksonville, as opposed to the Broncos, who play in a division with the San Diego Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, who are a perennial playoff team, and then the Oakland Raiders, who probably would have went to the AFC Championship game last year if Derek Carr didn't get hurt. So The Texans have a lot to offer here. They play in a much easier division, but their roster is just as good. And finally, the third team that was linked to Tony Romo are the New York Jets. But really, I don't want to talk too much about the Jets because I don't know why Tony Romo would ever go there. They just have a need for quarterback because they released Ryan Fitzpatrick. I believe Geno Smith is also a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. But they don't want to play the young guys, Christian Hackenberger and Bryce Petty. They just don't want to go in that direction, so they are QB needy. But they just lost Brandon Marshall to the Giants. Their defense was pretty pathetic last year. Darrelle Revis is not coming back. They released him. So the New York Jets, I mean, you've got Quincy Enunwa as your best wide receiver, essentially. I don't even know if they have a tight end on the roster, so not a lot of talent to work with the Jets. I don't know why Tony Romo would do this or why he would go there, so it doesn't make sense to me. I don't like the Jets as an option. So all in all, just to bring this to a full circle, where do I think Tony Romo ends up? I think it's the Houston Texans, folks. Okay, look, two main things for me are the key factors here, and I think Tony Romo somehow, someway, whether it's being released or traded, ending up with the Houston Texans, and that is because, like I mentioned before, considerably easier division. Do not underestimate that. And then second, Tony Romo is a family man who's got a couple of young kids. He's been in Dallas, Texas his whole life. I think he's comfortable in Texas. I don't think he wants to move. You're talking about a 2-hour, basically, what is that, like 2-hour drive to Houston, with Tony Romo doesn't even have to basically move, and he could just be there, and it would be great. So I think family-wise, because I've heard Tony Romo is big on family, and then also the division, I think those two things give the Houston Texans the edge here, and why I think Tony Romo will end up with the Houston Texans. But that is just what I think. Let me know what you guys think. Where is Tony Romo going to end up? Leave a comment down below, and as always, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.